Hi everyone, it's Emily here, and I have a big pile of recommendations that have to do with psychology books. I've read a lot of new books recently, and also when I wasn't making videos, and I thought I would share them all with you in case you wanted to pick up something new. This is a good one, and it's kind of in the self-help psychology category. It introduces theory, but it also applies it to how you can use it in your life. So it's a good balance. And this one is Self-Compassion, The Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself by Kristin Neff. And she's a psychologist, and this book talks about her research that has to do with self-compassion, which is kind of the idea of being kind to yourself, being mindful of how you're feeling rather than just ignoring it, and just tuning into your emotions, really. This book really aims to help you break past like self-criticism and critical thoughts, and it helped me a lot. I read it, and it has a lot of good insights in here, and also some journaling prompts. So it has a really good mixture. It also talks about her studies and how she came to the topic of research she did and how she studied it. So it has a little bit of everything in it. And I know that if you are familiar at all with Brené Brown and her work, she talks a lot about self-compassion. So it could be a good one to pick up. Another one, kind of along that same vein, it talks about psychology theory, but it also has a self-help aspect to it. And it's hard to see because of the background, but it is called The Highly Sensitive Person, How to Thrive When the World Overwhelms You. And this is by Elaine, and she is a psychologist, and most of her research has to do with highly sensitive people, a topic that is very interesting to me. So her theory has to do with the fact that some people have more sensitive central nervous systems than others. Some people are highly sensitive to outside stimuli and process things a little bit differently. And this is a book for those people, basically. I picked it up when I somehow found an article about highly sensitive people and wanted to learn more about it, and really related and felt understood when I read it. So if you are someone who has also always been very sensitive, not only to the outside world, but also to emotions, this book has a lot about why and also how to cope. And just like the other one, it has a lot of like journaling prompts, and it talks a lot about a lot of different things in psychology, and it kind of puts it all together. So it's a really good one. And let's just stay on that vein. Another one that I think is really important is Boundaries, and this is an older edition. I'll put the more recent cover up in case that's the, I don't think this one's published anymore, but When to Say Yes, When to Say No, and to Take Control of Your Life by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. And they are both like practicing therapists, and this is a book talking about boundaries, the concept of having emotional boundaries with others in your life. Boundaries are really important, and as I've learned more about them and began practicing like having healthy boundaries, it's been a big deal for me. So this book has a lot of insight into what boundaries are and how to create them, and it also has a lot of anecdotes about clients that they had and their wisdom and insight. I will say that it does have a Christian, like, they are coming from a Christian perspective, so they do use like some biblical passages, and they talk about Christianity as well. But I thought this was a powerful book, and boundaries are really important. So that's a cool one. Another one that is also like psychology related, but also could be used as self-help, is The Attachment Effect, exploring the powerful ways our earliest bonds shape our relationships in life, by Peter Lovenheim. I think that's how you say his name. But he is not a psychologist, the first one in the pile. He is a journalist. And Peter went on a journey to understand what attachment theory is. So he interviews a lot of psychologists, a lot of therapists to get their insight. And he digs deep into the research and into the actual application of attachment. So it's a really good mixture of a lot of things. And because Peter has a more outside view, I think he makes this concept very accessible. That's the word I was looking for. He does a great job explaining in this book how attachment is formed during childhood and with your primary caregivers, and how those patterns go on into the interpersonal relationships that you have throughout your life. And I think it's just a powerful thing to be aware of, because it's something that affects all of us, and everyone has, a lot of people have different attachment styles. There are 4 different ones, but some are more common than others. And just being aware of like yourself and how you interact with others and other people, I think it creates a lot more understanding in relationships. And he talks about dating, he talks about in therapy, being in counseling, parenting, and upbringing, and how to measure it. And there's even like an assessment that you can take to figure out what attachment style you may have. So this was a good book. It has a lot of information in it, and I really enjoyed reading it. I highlighted it a lot, and I still think a lot about attachment style, especially when I'm meeting new people today. And let's see, this one I read more recently. This is Born for Love, Why Empathy is Essential and Endangered, by Bruce Perry and Maia Szalavitz. Bruce Perry has a really interesting background. He is a child psychiatrist, but also like a neuroscientist. He has all this knowledge about the brain and how it functions, but he also has all this knowledge about helping children in therapy and working with really difficult cases. And he kind of has a really unique perspective because of that, and he's able to put all these insights together. And in this book, in particular, he talks a lot about empathy and the processes in the brain that happen when empathy is developed at a very young age through those early attachment relationships. And he also talks about situations, and all these are real life situations and people that he's worked with the names changed, when things have gone wrong during development, and how to heal that. He gets very into detail about the brain, which I loved. I thought it was very interesting. You don't need a neuroscience background to understand it, because he really does a good job with Maia of building up the information that you need to know and explaining it well. It has a good mixture of like theoretical knowledge when it comes to neuroscience, but also practical knowledge. I feel like I learned a lot reading this book. It was very eye-opening and insightful. It was also painful at times to read about circumstances where people have suffered because of different reasons. Okay, the camera cut off for a few minutes, but this was a really good book. I learned a lot, and I'm currently reading his other book and like it equally as much. So that's a good one to pick out if you're just interested to learn more about how the brain develops and neuroscience or child development. And the other one that is more, it's less theory based, but I think it's equally useful, is How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. And this is more of like a parenting related book. It's written by two women that would do like parenting workshops and worked a lot with different clinicians that worked with children, and they learned a lot about how to work with kids. And that's Adele Faber and Elaine Mazlish. I think that this book contains a lot of wisdom. They talk a lot about different aspects of parenting in it. So the biggest ones like validating feelings, helping children with their feelings, encouraging autonomy, praise, how to deal with misbehavior. And then they have a lot of like actual scenarios, and they use like cartoon drawings to show different scenarios of children with parents and the best way to communicate. And then they also have a lot of activities to like try to put into practice the knowledge that you're getting from the book. I am not a parent, but I work a lot with kids, and I found this very useful for that reason. I think the biggest takeaway was just talking about validating feelings and how to talk to people about their feelings. It seems so easy when you read about it in this book, but now I'm seeing in everyday interactions how useful it is, even not just when you're talking to children, when you're talking to a friend that's an adult, how to really listen and really show that you're listening. So I think this is a good book. It's a more practical guidebook, but it has a lot of nuggets of wisdom in there. Those are the books that I have been reading that I would recommend. If you have any good recommendations, let me know down below, because I always like to pick up a new book to learn something new. I hope that you are doing well and enjoying what you're reading right now. Until next time, bye.